me personally, I am super excited for this discussion. As we all know, the theme of the discussion that we have today is going to be being actors and educators, young adults who are in a planet that is celebrated today, but at the same time, we all know that there is differences and challenges that comes with celebrating something like Earth. So being youth and educators in the fight against climate action. And our panelists, as you see, are educators. Well, actually, Maria Angelica is the one who's representing the educators community today. But also we are advocates and activists who are struggling super hard every day to talk about things that are important. But today, this is your space to challenge each of us with questions as well. The end session, so 10 minutes at the end, will be completely dedicated to your question and answers. So if you have any, don't hesitate to ask us. But yeah, we will give Walter like 2 minutes to join if he can, but otherwise, let's go ahead with our questions. But yeah. Maybe let's begin if it's okay with everybody. I will also pose the questions in the chat just in case, if I'm not clear enough. But otherwise, all of you are climate activists and champions of global change in your own parts of the world, be it Algeria, be it USA, or be it Colombia and France. So can you let us know that in your life, so full of exciting moments, exciting times, but also things that are challenging. Can you help us understand, or the audience understand, what inspired you to begin your journey and how has it been so far? Maybe I'll start with Maria.
Okay, thank you. So what initially inspired my journey as a climate activist and educator, because I did also some activist, was a deep concern for the environmental challenge we face today, witnessing the devastating impacts of climate change on society and recognizing the inequality of traditional approaches to address this issue. I felt compelled to take action. The activism of figures like Greta Thunberg, for example, through the Fridays for Future movement, played a significant role in shaping my perspective. This movement challenged not only traditional social and political structures, but also the dynamics between teachers and students, emphasizing the importance of recognizing young people's social and environmental realities and valuing their experience in knowledge generation. Additionally, my commitment was reinforced by the realization of the limitation in some climate change initiatives. Despite their noble intentions, many of these efforts failed to fully incorporate critical perspective and adequately address the underlying social issues exacerbating the climate crisis. So many times that is focused like in technical and more structural things, but leave this, for example, inequalities and power dynamics or that help to perpetuate environmental degradation. So it also made me more determined to the challenge of old-fashioned views, especially those that come from colonial thinking, which tend to dominate discussion about climate change.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you want to pass it on to Selma, maybe?
I'm waiting for an approval from you, Maria. Can I? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Professor. So hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm so happy to be here again with you. I'm sorry, my voice is like a bit weird today. We went hiking in a very cold place, and that was weird. I don't know why we did this morning. Anyways, so I would love to kick this out by saying Happy Earth Day to everyone. I hope all the activists will always have the freedom and somehow the support enough for them to continue doing this amazing work that they are all somehow inspiring to do. I would love to answer your question because it's actually a very good one to kind of kick this out. Maybe what inspired me when I first started this activism journey was the amazing work that my grandparents used to do. Because when I first started, it was in the green sector. It was in agriculture. I used to do agriculture with my grandparents, and I really loved the fact that they were really taking it so seriously because they always wanted somehow to give what is healthy to the people. They used always to have very eco-friendly practices while making sure that people are consuming what is healthy. And just like the look that I had to my grandparents doing their best to just, you know, secure that to strangers, literally, made me always just like wonder why so much hard work for something I mean, people don't know, so you can always facilitate the work but no, it wasn't the case for my grandparents, and this just really inspired me to somehow know more about the food and security sector, which has been the first focus of mine when I started my activism journey. And then step by step, I started digging deep into what is all about climate change. How can we protect our planet and just make sure that we are having this environmental conservation mindset somehow taught to everyone. So I always believe that educating people about climate change as a simplified term, as something that you don't need so much academic background on, because some people don't know a lot about climate change. They'd be like, we don't know, this is like requires so much studies, but it has never been the case. And that's why I really loved activism work, because it's just like you not knowing about anything, and then people start teaching you step by step on how to do stuff, how to speak up, how to address these struggles in a formal way, especially when interacting with decision and policymakers. And I had the opportunity to do this, and that was amazing because, like, as just Ed in the chat, he said that it was an EcoSoc, and I heard that amazing youth were having amazing side events. They addressed their struggles. So many people also addressed challenges that are till the moment somehow neglected, like the peace and security issue, linking it to the climate justice. So I really loved the amazing somehow achievements that people are doing while we're here talking about, celebrating this day. So I just love the fact how everyone is trying to take their actions. And then, like, after really getting out from agriculture sector, I wanted to do more stuff, but I just hated the fact that it's all theoretical. So I wanted to kind of level things up. And I had the chance to be among the Youth for Climate delegates, which was like the big summit with the decision makers in Milan. So I was among these delegates, and I had the chance to meet people from my region. And then eventually we decided, in order for us to follow up with this, we have to create something, something tangible where we can always meet, not only for the summit to bring us all together. We hated the fact that, not hated, okay, no, we just somehow didn't accept the fact that the Europeans, for example, had their own council. Okay, that's why I said I didn't hate. The Europeans had their own youth council for them to discuss and negotiate their community and regional struggles. The same thing for Africa, but like the MENA region didn't really have much. So we decided to create the MENA Youth Network, which is now one of the biggest regional networks of youth, where we are doing great work in many international gatherings. We're also drafting policies like the one with the World Food Forum. And I just love the mix that we're having, and the youthful vibes and the energy we're bringing as Arabs, So it was quite interesting somehow for us to really build that up. And you can see, like, this interest and the aspiration we wanted to leave and the impact mainly somehow left this great outcome of creating something regional. And then it didn't stop there. We decided all to kind of create something locally. So we started being greedy a bit. So each one of us also somehow founded their own thing in their at the grassroots level. And I love the fact that we're somehow improving our mindset and just like deciding to go for actions more than talking. And like our decision makers now, we actually implement more than we talk. And I'm happy that we're different. With all my respect to them again. I know this is recorded.
Thank you so much. I think it definitely resonates what Maria and you, Selma, has shared. The idea that we started very small with seeing actors around us making real tangible change, even though the actors are not strong figures in community. And then you get to a point or a state where you see that the actors in power who are supposed to are not doing things the way it's meant to be done, really, really changes the outlook we have. And I can assure you, like at least talking to activists from many parts of the world, that has affected their trajectory in many different ways. And I'm going to pass it to Calvin now, who is the youngest of all of us here. So, Calvin, tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure for you guys to really have me here. And so, coming from kind of the younger side, it's a little bit different in the kind of environment that, I kind of grew up in. And so a lot of the times, my work in climate activism just comes from a lot of the daily challenges that, I face in our area. So a lot of the issues, especially where I live, are wildfires. There's a lot of like air pollution from there, and so a lot of these issues have affected even me since since a very young age. So as someone who has asthma, it's really difficult, especially to for everyday life. Sometimes it does get tough, and so a lot of the action that really like sparked my initiative was just um the want and the desire to just do something about it, right? And so as simple as it sounds, it really began from taking a lot from what I learned from school, right? And how to really build and develop cool new ideas, right? Whether these are small side projects or pretty complex things that I'm really working on. It's something that does take a lot of time, but it does I think anyone can really start, and don't be really intimidated by the scale of the impact you're really making, right? Sometimes you may be starting out and you're like, oh, there's this is really not going to get anywhere. There's really nobody who's interested in what I'm doing, right? And so it really is about believing in yourself and trusting yourself, and really along the way you'll find a lot of people who support you. And so for example, last year during the SDG summit, a lot of the discussion that I was a part of was just looking at, what is the mindset on youth and how youth ideas are actually being treated, right? A lot of the times these are, really high level discussions, and it felt like, oh, what is my place in all of this? But a lot of times, people are very welcoming when you are able to really show them that you do care and that what you're doing is meaningful, impactful to their lives. And so, yeah, it's about really believing in yourself and having that support group for others to believe in you as well. So, yeah, that's kind of how I really got started.
Thank you. I mean, all your answers really amplifies how important it is to have a community that believes in you as well, that supports what you do and takes you seriously. I mean, a lot of times people in power, they don't do that unless your idea is posted everywhere. And even then, you receive a lot of criticism. But it's really, really exciting to hear that from so many different parts of the world, we have a spirit that doesn't die, a spirit that really keeps us moving and wants us to make change regardless of whatever is happening. At the moment as we speak, really, really bad things are happening. But then the spirit we have in the room just makes us believe that the world at the end of the day is a good place. I'm going to take it to Walter. Hello, Walter. I hope everything's well. We see you. But yes, we were just having, both, I mean, all three of them, Maria, Calvin, and Selma, were sharing their perspectives about how they started their journey and how it is at the moment. Would you like to go next?
Hi. So apologies. Yeah. Honestly speaking, I've been all my days since morning. I've been at the field, moving around schools, growing trees, celebrating Earth Day. So honestly, I've just right now I'm with a couple of young folks. So I didn't really move with my laptop. So all I have is my phone. So I cannot really right now turn on my camera or what. But well, as you introduced me, Osigai Tepesit. Pardon?
No, go on. You can introduce yourself. I think it would be best that you do it.
So my name is Walter. A youth leader and who someone. Okay, I'm a youth leader, climate advocate, and an environmentalist from Uganda. Yeah, that is all about me. About what I do, I run a startup that deals in waste management. Basically, that is mitigating the impacts and trying to address the impacts of climate change, not only climate change, but also gender disparities and decent work, and trying to create jobs for young people. And also, aside from that, I'm also involved in so many other spaces. Currently, I'm a youth advisor to the EU in Uganda. That is specifically the thematic lead for climate, environment, and energy. And so I think it would be better if we dive straight to the question. And I would love you to kind of repeat the question again.
No, I think you've already answered the question. We're trying to let everybody know where we started, how we started, and what we're doing at the moment. But you nailed all that points. Don't worry.
So, how I started, basically, I started this when I was still young, at the age of 10 years. Basically, I started green clubs, environmental clubs in my school, where I was advocating for planting of trees, and also advocating for environmental clubs in other schools. And so it's not something that I just started right now. It has been something that I started from quite some time ago, and I was inspired to do this after I lost my uncle, one of my uncles, to things. I mean, bad air, things caused by industrial emissions and all that. And so he lost his life. So I was not only, of course, I was not only challenged, but it kind of sparked that inner feeling in me, something that new, that feeling in me to start something new, like, and to find ways how I can really make a change in my community. But I realized that we as young people, as a young person like me, I needed really to do something in my community that I can be able to remember my uncle each and every year. And so that is how I started all this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. I mean, the collective voice in the room is that it all started with a personal moment, be it our grandparents, be it our uncles, be it the health that we have, or even our own situations where we grew up. It is how it started, and then there came a moment where we didn't really feel right about what was happening, and that takes us to our next question, which is already in the chat. We see that institutions and many actors often fail us to keep up their promises to support us in this climate crisis. Now, the burden of the action really falls on our shoulders. So, how do you propose that we effectively amplify both individual and collective action in our own communities? And despite these challenges, what strategies can we employ to foster meaningful change? I'm going to start with Selma.
All right, we'd love to. Thank you so much. I actually really love these questions because we're having these international gatherings happening one after the other, and we see, of course, without any denial, that youth and civil society are indeed having a presence there. However, like each time, for example, let me give a simple example. We had in Algeria, we have organized last year Alcoy, a local conference of youth, for the very first time. And the outcomes were amazing. We have even like drafted demands, proposals, and we even like had a collaboration and even a presence of a ministry. However, like we wanted again to host the second edition normally this year, because the outcomes were amazing and youth really loved it. And this is something usually doesn't really happen much. So like when we tried to do the second edition, it didn't really make sense to do it because most of our proposals and demands till the moment haven't been approved. We haven't seen anything done yet. So what's the point of really hosting such conferences, or just let's say give this platform or spaces to youth, but at the same time nothing is really implemented? So we have really to somehow again note down that it's not always about having us presented or fill the seats with our presence, but it's more of really seeing what we're asking for there, on the ground. Because like most of the times it has been the case, and we need to really like gross this out, because it shouldn't be the case every time. I mean, we're thankful, of course. I cannot deny the fact that the presence of civil society is increasing day after another, and I'm so happy that this representation is there. That's, of course, not to mention that we're having a full representation of youth from all regions. That's just all backgrounds. That's just like to note it down. That's amazing, really, to have. And even like in the MENA region, where this used not to happen, but recently in the Arab Sustainable Development Summit, the Arab Forum that was hosted here in Lebanon, we really received personal invitation. I don't know how they got my email. So you can just see that they want really to kind of change, and they thought of this, this future that considers youth engagements in giving decisions, and let's say in suggesting proposals and demands, and because they have found a lot of kind of benefits coming from their ideas. And we have seen a lot of projects being implemented, whether in the innovation field or just civil society in general. So I would say the collaboration should really happen, but in a way where we see real outcomes being implemented, where we see somehow youth not only integrated in terms of just maybe for the media to notice them, but also for them to see their actions on the ground and what they have asked for, maybe. As for maybe the involvement of youth, we're seeing that civil society is doing great work in terms of somehow expanding their networks and having as many people as we can. Just recently with MENA Youth Network, we received around 105. So far, 105 application, and that's like something that we have never had before. So we can see the interest in people. People are more interested in taking part in this journey and become activists, and that's what we're hoping for. But at the same time, we want to ensure that the world they're about to join is actually serious, and when they say something, it is seen on the ground. We don't want to leave this as messy as it is, as we can see it now. We want really to, we have to actually improve this. So that would be my point for this question.
Thank you so much. And I think as Youth Fellows, Ed was at ECOSOC in New York, and this was also something that resonated back and forth. So maybe at some point we can pass the mic to him. But now going to Calvin, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's really difficult to, answer these really big questions, but I think, let's approaching it, piece by piece is definitely the way to, make this easy for, everyone in the world to understand, from youth all the way to people in power, right? And so I think the way to really go about this is once again kind of taking the understanding that just you are in charge of first of all your own actions, and from your own actions that goes on to your local community. And so really not focusing on your local community at first is the best way to start, because to kind of that degree there's not really a lot of there's not, you get the burden of action on your own shoulders in there, and there's not really a lot of pressure to, start big, do, you know, from a super high level, and sometimes it's just about starting from, you know, the ground level. And so from there you get a lot of youth who are interested, and you know, from that kind of point of view. And so you do build a strong like support group of people who are there in the whole journey with you. But it's really about when you can have all these, you know, communities around the world unite in one shared goal. And so sometimes it's not really about like um it's not always about creating a collective effort. Sometimes it is about individual effort that shines through together as kind of a whole. And so you do see, you know, these small changes happening, and they contribute to one large thing, right? And so a lot of the times, especially when you're at a younger age, a lot of it isn't trying to isn't trying to create so much collective, you know, like create like on a like grand scale. A lot of times it's just doing what you're doing and inspiring others around you to do it, because you know, the small things really do matter. And so, you know, from there you get this kind of like you do get this momentum when you have, you know, already done so much in your local community to connect these people together. And so when you start, you know, expanding your reach, you start reaching out to people, you know, from, let's say, from your own state or province, right? And you start going out from there. It becomes a lot easier when you already have a foundation and a base, instead of, you know, being ambitious directly from the start and, you know, kind of folding all over on yourself because you have, you know, haven't really done the work yourself. So, you know, it's a little bit of practicality. It's believing that, you know, what you do at a small scale is important to building what you do on a larger scale. So, you know, you aren't directly, you know, pushed into a spotlight that, you know, you haven't really experienced. So I think it's about um having experience on a smaller scale and letting that shine through when you're developing on later.
Thank you, Calvin. From what I hear, it is that your individual action matters as much or even more than collective action. And every small step that we take is a part of the big process that we may or may not see. But really, thank you. And uh, I mean, as young people who are, you know, maybe even younger than yourself, 13, 14, 15, who see the climate crisis and who think, you know, I'm not Greta Thunberg, I am not Selma, I'm not Maria, I'm not Walter, I'm not Calvin. What can I do? Maybe it begins with turning off unwanted lights, turning off the TV when you're not watching it, you know, taking, not always putting, I guess, you know, using public transport or taking the plug out of the socket or whatever is necessary instead of always thinking, let me go talk to the member of the parliament. You know, start local, act global, as Selma put it. And I'm going to pass it to Maria. What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, I was listening you, and I want to say congratulations for the young girls who are activists, because this question is really a challenge. When we think in activism and environmental actions, we need to consider that in certain regions, for example, in Latin America, being an environmental leader can entail significant risk. So given the necropolitics plays a crucial role in the scenario, manifesting itself in the two levels of environmental file. On the one hand, policies you are speaking about go to speak in the parliament, and we need to consider that policies have power. So that these kind of policies then can generate environmental conflicts, increase death in nature, and that affect negatively in the communities, but also in the other hand, have some people who defend the nature and vulnerable communities face direct threats to their life. That is very common in some areas, for example, in Latin America. However, to empower our communities, we must be willing to take risks, and those risks, of course, will depend on the context in which we are. As mentioned earlier, the problem is structural, and to mobilize a strategic and a critical approach is necessary. Following some ideas of researchers like Baumann's, the work of critical thinking involves to translate individual problems into public concerns and exploring alternatives, vision, and just an equitable society. And to can generate kind of change, and need to have like two big levels. One is cognitive enlightenment, following by liberation through dissonance. So, for example, when we speak about climate change, it is essential for people to fully understand the natures and implications of climate change. This involves educating the population about effects of climate change on the environment, but also in the society, in their economies, and understanding how it affects vulnerable communities at both local and global levels. Once people understand the seriousness of the problem, we must create a sense of dissonance or discomfort that motivates action. This can be achieved by highlighting the discrepancies between individual actions and society's values in relation to mitigation of climate change. For example, if someone values environmental preservation, but their city continues to promote polluting industries, a dissonance is created that can motivate action. So when Calvin was speaking about inspiration, I think so is, yes, need inspiration, but need to understand what is the problems and how they affect, and after we'll go to the actions. So some strategies to amplify our message and mobilize efforts at the individual and collective level. We can say adopting a critical approach to address a structural challenge, promoting cognitive enlightenment through education, identifying dissonance to motivate actions, questioning estrange ideologies, and working towards a deeper understanding of the social structures. Because so many times we are like reducing to individualism, what we are doing each one, but if our system is not changing, our impact won't be enough, because the impact of contamination of the big industries are bigger than what are really doing us in our families. Identifying and recognizing the role of social actors we can work with, mobilizing to protect nature and fight for environmental justice as part of larger movement for social justice and equity, and fostering collectivity and social mobilization to visualize an unfair reality and promote meaningful change in society.
Thank you, Maria. It really, is a collection of both what Selma and Calvin shared, and also the idea of being the adult in the room and saying it also policies also matter, and what the regulations that are put in place by people in power matter as much as what we do on our own, and also as a group, as a community. Like, that is amazing. And I think I've also noted down what you said. If our system doesn't change, our efforts won't be enough. I mean, that absolutely sums up what both Calvin and Selma and activists around the world are putting, in papers and words and articles and on the streets. So, Walter, what would you like to add to this?
Hello, are you getting me?
Yeah.
So, all I can say is that I think we as young people, we need to get organized. I mean, we need to kind of have an arrangement where we are organized in a way that if we need kind of support from, let's say, the government, different stakeholders, the government, civil society, private sector, we need to be kind of organized, because if we are organized, and that is when they will listen to our demands more. Because trust me, if you go as one person, it is very hard for you to get support. But if you go as a team, it's very easy for you to get support. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is that I'm organizing the local conference of youth and climate change this year in Uganda, the contact point. And we are not only doing that, we are trying as much as possible to unite young people from all over Uganda to come together to share ideas, to come and contribute to full policy formulations, to come and interact, network. I mean, young people from all diverse cultural backgrounds to come and contribute their ideas, what they feel, because different communities are being affected by climate change differently. So we need all these young people on board. And that is one of the objectives of our local conference of youth this year in Uganda. we are going to be having regional LCOIs, regional consultations, where we're going to be moving around all the regions in Uganda, consulting these young people to make this activity most very participatory as much as possible. And so another thing that we have as young people here, we have formed what is called the which is kind of like lobbying for young people support, ensuring that young people are involved in policy formulations in government, and not just in government, but all in the different sector stakeholders where these young people are involved. So it's high time that these stakeholders, the private sector, the civil society, the government, realize that we cannot no longer continue excluding young people from some of these processes, but it's very important to include the young people in these processes. And that's why that is one of the work that we are doing right now. We are trying to advocate, push for these young people to be included in some of these important discussions in the country, and most especially climate policy and decisions that will be made by government or any other stakeholders. Apart from that, what we did last year is that we came up with a youth position paper on climate change, which we submitted to UNDP. UNDP, we also able to submit to launch it at COP28 at the Uganda Pavilion, where we had these young people come together, contribute ideas that resulted into policy formulation that enabled UNDP and the government, that's the Ministry of Environment and Water, to come up with policies and also to help them make new policies and also drive their future policies. And so we are not just seated down as young people, but we are really actively involved in some of these important.
Walter, I think you mute yourself.
We are not only making it in a conference format, but we are having different thematic hubs where we are going to be having experts come from these different thematic fields, adaptation, mitigation, food systems and agriculture, climate mobility, just transition and energy. All these thematic areas, we are going to be having thematic sessions, master classes, where these young people can come and just learn, not just come for a conference, but learn and get this knowledge, whereby they can be able to go back to their communities and implement some of these ideas in their communities. As I've told you, like, these young people are affected by climate change differently. And so this year we are really making this more better and more better and more better. And we are going across the regions to make sure that these young people get this knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. And I took it from you. Different communities are affected by climate change differently. So, from what everybody here says, there is no one size fits all solution. What we all need is different. And as young people, we can start by our own individual action, take it to the community, and it becomes communal. Then, like Maria Angelica was saying, and also what Walter echoed, we build ourselves as a group of people who are strong and powerful and take it to the actors and demand that there needs to be change in terms of policy and action and so much more. And we have about 15 minutes for question and answers, but I would love to know what would be, maybe in a minute each, starting with Calvin, what would be your Earth Day resolution this year that you will take through Earth Day 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of reminding of, when for like New Year's resolutions, and this is, I really love this. So, one thing is, so I think I have a few. So one is, always, bike everywhere, right? Like, bike to school, bike to the grocery store. So it's as easy as that. So that's, one thing. Another thing is also I think really taking, what I've done and reaching out to people and really, getting support, right? For example, a lot of the stuff that I'm working on right now is unrelated wildfires, right? And so a lot of what I'm trying to do right now and will want to do is to, just reach out to as many people as I can and get thoughts on it, right? Because when you have multiple people thinking, multiple people looking at what you're doing, it's, always a good way to find progress.
Thank you. And you can choose who you want to pass it on to.
Selma?
Yeah, thank you so much, Calvin. Yeah, we are because the youngest, I think we have now somehow the floor to speak more. Honestly, I somehow agree because I feel like every Earth Day, we always what we do sometimes as activists is celebrate the amazing achievements we have done. For example, in both NGOs that I'm leading and co-leading, we're planning to somehow have this let's say like a summary for all the amazing work that we have done as youth, and we'll be showing it publicly to somehow see to make people see the amazing work that we're doing, and that whatever people are saying that this is a waste of time, it has never been the case, because as Walter stated, and I love the amazing work you're doing, Walter, well done, bravo. It's just amazing because we are literally having our demands being included in global declarations. MENA Youth Network, maybe I forgot to mention this before, but we have also added our own policies as youth from the MENA region in the WFF in collaboration with the FAO. So you can see the amazing work that youth are doing and just celebrating that and reminding ourselves, even if the support didn't come from others, just our own support is there, and this is a day where we have to remember all of this. And we are always determined to make sure to have as many people as we can in, because this is a journey that will not only somehow inspire people to make change in their communities, but also build them up as leaders and change makers in the future. And that's how we are planning to lead our future. Of course, we don't want to make the same mistakes that our present decision makers are doing, and we want to ensure that the future doesn't only have pictures for what we're seeing now. We want to really see the same exact things, and we want to improve them, even though sometimes it's too late to improve stuff, but at least limit the challenging impact that we're getting somehow. So yes, honestly speaking, the more we move on in years, the more challenging and pressuring it is, because we're seeing that climate change is really getting harder year after another, and I hope the next Earth Day will be somehow easier on certain communities, because we're seeing the struggle really is growing up, and we hope as activists can address all the challenges without really somehow disregarding anyone or any ethnicity or any community, mainly including the minorities, of course. So I would love to end it this way, and I would love to pass it to Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Selma. So for this year, we are in one project in education side, and is to understand the emotions, the knowledge, and the practices of teachers are having in climate change education in 3 countries, in Saudi Arabia, Colombia, and Malaysia. And the idea is that once we analyze the data, we can do proposal for environmental climate change education, because, for example, one of the topics that when we speak about emotions, we can see that in the different countries are many, we can say frustration, we can say eco-anxiety and all that. So have this kind of emotions is something that need to work too. When we say about knowledge too, because sometimes climate change is one topic that appear all the people know. Yes, appear the word, but that means that the people are knowing. And many times we are demanding the teachers to work on that when the teachers are not understanding the full concept, because it's a very complex concept. Today in the discourses appear political dimension, appear technical dimension, communities, but that imply many dimensions, no? So science too, to can understand the patterns of the climate and all that. So that is that I am working this year.
Thank you. And Walter, it's your turn. What is your Earth Day resolution?
Come again?
What is your Earth Day resolution?
What is my what?
What is your Earth Day resolution, Walter? Maybe you can put it in the chat.
So basically, the theme for this year's Earth Day is Earth versus Plastics. And what I've been doing today is basically I'm having a couple of sessions today and tomorrow later in the day today, where I'll be I think one will be on Zoom and one will be on X-Space, where I'll be talking about plastic waste management in Uganda, and also how youth-led action can help to tackle plastic waste in Uganda, and also the kind of youth-led solutions that we can come up to take action against plastic. Only the session I'm having like 3 couple sessions coming on where I'm going to be speaking about just plastic.
I think we lost you, Walter. No worries though, but maybe we can use the rest of the time we have to ask our panelists any questions that you have.
I think Edward asked and they already raised some questions. If we can.
I think it was from Ed, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it was just a question on that was really inspiring. That's given me a lot of energy for Earth Day. But I think the main one, as I said, coming back from EcoSoc was just like so many ideas, so much inspiration, but like a lot of overwhelm. And kind of like I was interested to hear from each of you at kind of different stages of your kind of journey as climate activists and specialists as well, like how you manage to keep your kind of your energy and keep grounded in this struggle, because I know that that's a challenge for many.
Hello. So I think I had some challenges with my other account. So, but what I was trying to say is that this year's theme for Earth Day is plastics versus planets, and so part of my work that I do at Walton, as the CEO of Walton, is collecting plastics and managing recycling of plastics. And so that is part of the work that I've kind of been doing already before. But what I've been doing today in celebration of Earth Day has been really to talk to young people, grow trees. We have been growing some trees in about 10 schools. And we have also been mobilizing young people on climate education and also being able to educate them on climate change issues. But
Thank you, Walter. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Also, it's quite the thing
basically
to.
today I've just been planning young person around the world, like each and everyone, to take action against plastic pollution, plastic waste, and make a difference in their communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Walter's Earth resolution going to be fight plastic pollution. Thank you. Yes, Kathy has shared some amazing resources from LPI in the chat, but also who wants to answer Ed's question? Maria Angelica, would you like to go first?
Okay, the question is, what is the challenge? Yeah, is that?
Ed, do you want to repeat the question? I think we that lost in translation.
Yeah, sorry. I was just to actually ask about it was I think I put it further up in the chat, but just in terms of kind of like the well-being of climate activists, there's a huge amount of energy and action and making change, but that a lot of those that I was speaking to as well last week are also quite overwhelmed and quite exhausted by this challenge. And I was just wondering how you kind of maintain the well-being of yourselves, but also the community that you work with as kind of actors in tackling climate change.
Okay, I will explain that before to bring to the climate change education, I was doing kind of activism through social networks, one group of people of different part of the world, creating material, creating actions. And I think so have different moments of the process, so have moments that have like very many engagement, that have the opportunity like to do many activities and things like that, but sometimes have other moments that according with the impact that can have or not, or so the energy can go down too. And I think so the way when we connect with something that maybe is more like inside our capacity agency can stay more time. So when I came for education, I think so it's part of that, because how I work with education teacher, but research too. So it's something that I can do parallel to my work, because that implies extra work too. You know? So if you are studying, if you are working, that implies other time to dedicate to this other kind of actions that we are interested on. So I think so it's the cup like something, I think so that is very associated with the energy of the moment, and the problems of the moment sometimes are like higher. And for example, this year and the last years about the weather in Latin America, the global warming, the inundation and all that, I think so that sometimes are helping to increase and take the energy again to speak about the topic.
Thank you, Maria. In the spirit of time, maybe Selma and Calvin, you can share your perspectives in a minute each.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean,
Oh,
oh,
go,
sorry.
Kevin.
You could,
Go,
okay,
please.
no. Thank you. So, I guess just, still save time for yourself, right? We're fighting, some of these big challenges, and, it's really important to still, care for your own health and your own mental health. And, that goes a long way, and, helps really with your longevity.
I can't be as brief as Calvin for sure. So bear with me. All right. I think for me, honestly, when we talk about activists, we really talk about, the mental health somehow, which is something that we address usually in big events, where we talk about we really need to, some activists are really taking climate change seriously to the point where they got affected mentally, thinking that this is a very, very urgent global concern that people need to pay more attention to. And sometimes living in communities where such things, activism work and taking actions is considered a waste of time, it's kind of really hard to kind of keep on trying to convince your community that this is something that worth to be supported, the investments as well, because we're seeing also in some communities where when we talk about funding on climate activities, as if you're talking about, I don't know, something that is completely useless. So I think the mindset itself of the communities is something that needs somehow to reconsider the well-being before talking about climate change. Because when we talk about activists, we talk about a group of people, and I'm talking group of people with no age limits, who are advocating for a healthier community, a more preserved environment, and mainly somehow to sustain this up later on. So I think when it comes to the well-being of youth mainly and activists, I think the best thing to do is somehow to ignore such struggles, because it is seen everywhere, and just focus on how can we convince those people that this is for their own well-being, this is for their own for them to remain present in this planet, at least. So that's how I can bring it out. And this is also somehow a call to action for everyone to wake up and to just, embrace this journey and try it out, at least, and take part in it. I think we agreed, both me and Calvin. And of course, Mariam.
Walter, if you're still here, we'd love to hear your perspective. But if not, don't worry about it. I know the internet is not the best. Please, no worry. No problemo. But thanks again, everybody. It was such an inspiring and exciting session. Really, I have so much energy and I have so much spirit in me to do amazing things. In the spirit of and looking at time, we're going to close the room soon. But if anybody has any questions that you think of, feel free to email me wherever the where you got the invitation to this meeting is from. You will have my email ID there, starting with Mia. So you can send me follow-up questions and I can give it to our amazing panelists. But just to end the discussion, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Climate change affects us all differently, but as people, let's start with individual action, collective action, and systemic action. And it is important to give each other space to grieve, to work through it, but also to make change. And here unfortunately, don't have any indigenous perspective and any indigenous voice. But as always, it's important to listen to the people who are most affected by climate change. But it's such a pleasure to have you all, to listen to you. And also thanks again to everybody who participated. Happy Earth Day. Bye.